Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's masterclass on Agile HR. I'm Laura Hernandez, Marketing Manager at Natal, and today I'll be joined by a great Agile HR expert and pioneer in the field, Natal Dank. Natal will show you how to apply Agile mindset to reinvent our people practices and deliver value as an HR team. The duration of her masterclass will be about 40 to 45 minutes, and then we will have a Q&A slot. We don't want you to leave this masterclass with unanswered questions, so please make the most of your time. Ask any question you have to Natal. You have the Ask a Question button below in Crowdcast, and if you are watching us on LinkedIn Live, you can just type your question in the chat, and we will gather them at the end of the masterclass. So now I'm going to invite Natal to appear on the screen. For those of you who just joined, welcome. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit more about her. Natal heads up learning, coaching, and community at PXO Culture and is seen as a pioneer in the Agile HR movement, following over a decade working in senior human resources, talent, and organizational development roles. Natal coaches clients in how to embrace an agile mindset and reinvent their people practices. Natal is focused on defining modern HR for the 21st century and helping organizations build great people experience and operations. Hello, Natal. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Are you ready to start?
I am ready to go.
Let's go then. The stage is all yours.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, everybody. So let's put some visuals up on the screen as well. Excellent. Okay, fabulous to meet you all. And first of all, I'd love to know where you're dialing in from today. So I've seen a few people put some messages in chat. So please let me know in chat where you're logging in from today. And of course, what is the weather like where you are? I'm in Scotland, so it's generally not very good weather. But today, there's actually sunshine. Can you see that? It's amazing. So please put in chat, where are you dialing in from today? And what is the weather like? Please let me know. Okay, so we have rainy Warsaw. Okay. India, excellent. And is it warm in India? That's the question. Super raining in Amsterdam. Okay, I'm actually going to be in Amsterdam next week, so hopefully the rain clears. Cloudy in Portugal, all right. And Melbourne, Australia, today was 25 degrees. Nice. I'm Australian as well, but not there at the moment. Berlin always has bad weather. Okay, sunny in Spain. Oh, Hitchin. I know Hitchin. Sunny, excellent. Hola in Barcelona. It's cloudy here today. Oh no, Barcelona's cloudy. Nigeria is cloudy. Okay, so some of the usual places where I always expect a bit of sun is cloudy today, and it's raining in Lithuania. Okay, excellent, fabulous. Thanks so much for letting me know where you are and what the weather is like. Fantastic. So a lot of what we're talking about today is looking at how do we start to build people and culture for this new working paradigm that had started to really develop before the pandemic, but was really, of course, just accelerated. And I think this is it. We're now in the future of work since the pandemic has impacted our working lives so much. And we had some themes. So prior to the pandemic, there was the need to be more customer centric. There was the need to work as sort of a network where we have, collaborative teams linking into each other to deliver value to that end customer. And we also had this need to kind of innovate and respond to the market around us and to our customer needs. The pandemic made this even more of a kind of something we have to do straight away. And in some ways, for a lot of us in different organizations, we accelerated that trend overnight. So all of a sudden, we were needing to set ourselves up in a much more self-organizing, digital way, collaborate in new ways to make sure we could get the job done, often sitting at home or in different places. And that has led us to now see as the need to be agile as a kind of way of working. So a lot of what we're talking today is this is not trends that are new, but they're here to stay. So we're now in the future of work. We are co-creating what the future of work is going to look like. That is super exciting. But also we need some new tools, skills, and behaviors to help us get there. Excellent. We've got a few more messages about where everyone is, and someone's dialing in from New York very early. Hello. We've got Malaga. We've got rainy Copenhagen. It is chilly in the UK. I agree. And we've even got someone in from Rwanda, which is lovely. So nice to meet you all. Okay, let me just make sure I can move my screen. Yep, here we go. So the message today is, it really is time for true transformation. Let's not just adapt. Let's not just kind of, make a few changes to kind of get by, or kind of just react to the world around us and the needs of our people and the market. Let's look at how do we truly transform how we work and then help our business achieve true organizational agility. And so the rest of the talk is going to explore how you can start to use more agile tools and techniques to co-create the employee experience. And the theme co-creation is really important. And so we'll touch on that soon. But it's about creating change with people rather than implementing change onto people. So if we build it together, they're part of that with us. Not only do we user test it and know that we're solving the right problems, but we actually have a much better result by approaching it that way. So I'm going to be a little bit controversial as well. And I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago. It was my first face-to-face conference. And they had invited a business strategy innovation speaker. And they didn't come from HR. They came from more the business side. And the question to them was, what is your message to HR? And the person said, HR need to kick their own butt. So the message was really very clear that HR needs to be a part of driving innovation. So if organizations, there's a huge need to shift to an agile mindset, to truly innovate, to take advantage of the opportunities that this huge disruption is presenting us. And just yesterday, I was speaking with a HR team that are facing a huge amount of turnover as a result of what's getting called the Great Resignation. But they've even realized that actually, while they're in tech and they've got a lot of movement and there's people that have moved from their organization, but they've also realized that this is a huge opportunity. Talent in tech is moving. And if they could get some of that best tech, then actually they could be in a competitive position. So this is how we can start to really play a key role in helping business not just respond to the change and disruption around us, but truly take advantage and be part of that. And so a couple of key themes that I'd like you to consider today is, what are some of the problems you're facing, not just in your HR, so not just in your business, but also in your HR teams? And agility as a mindset and then a way of working can help us solve some key problems that we face in HR. So it helps us modernize and it helps us digitalize. They kind of go quite hand in hand. Agile came about as part of software development. And to digitalize the employee experience, you really need to build a user-centric or a good user experience. And Agile helps you do that. It's definitely all about multifunctional teams. So it helps you break down silos in HR, and it's about delivering tangible value. So for quite a while in HR, we've got this huge, big wish list of all the things we need to get done. But they're big, complex topics like enrich well-being, build a hybrid office, find the best talent on the market. They're really big problems to solve. So Agile helps you break those problems down into manageable chunks of work, and it helps you start to articulate what is the value you're going to deliver. What are you going to deliver next week and the week after that, and how you're going to get feedback that that's the right thing to work on. So Agile can really help HR in particular be more of a value-adding function, and that's what we've wanted for quite a while. Also, within the profession, we've been talking quite a long time about the need to move away from more that command and control process and start to enrich that user experience of work. And Agile is just so essential for doing that. It's about a very holistic approach to building the employee experience. And ultimately, the message is our role in organizations is to help people be great in their job, isn't it? So the more that we can help people be great in what they do, we then help them deliver value through the business and through to that end customer. And the end customer in this example is the people that buy the products and services from your company, or if you're not for profit, they're the ones that use the community services that you provide. And this is our role. So Agile is also helping us understand how do we contribute to that value stream or that value chain through a business? How do we help people actually deliver that through to that end customer? And the more that we think about that, the more we're conscious of everything that we do needs to make the job easier and helps, decrease the complexity rather than add on to people's job. And that's quite an important thing to kind of fight sort of process waste and things like that. So I'm Natal Dank. I had a beautiful introduction earlier, so I'm not going to say too much more. You can come over to PXO Culture at any time. We have loads of great resources on Agile HR. If anyone's seen, I do a lot of videos with Tom Hark from the HR Trends Institute, and which is also a podcast. And we always look at the latest trends and how to kind of evolve your ways of working in HR. So that's all over at PXO Culture. We also do lots of meetups. And of course, we work very directly with HR teams and leaders about how do you start to take on these ways of working to revolutionize your results. Do connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. I'm always open for a chat. And as I said, at PXO Culture, we do a lot of events as well. We do a lot of free meetups. Our next one is about how to be an Agile coach and Scrum Master with someone that's done it for many years. And then, of course, we've got a public program that's based on quite a lot of programs that we've tested over the years, and that's the Agile HR Bootcamp. So if you're interested in that, please come and check it out. Okay, so let's get into thinking about how do we solve problems with an agile mindset? And I first want you to consider that, how do HR traditionally solve problems? Well, I have to be honest, up until now, a lot of the times we've solved problems thinking like HR. And I was taught to be like this. So I've been in HR for a long time, and I was always taught that we should follow best practice. And we should go and use the solutions that has been done before and then look at how we can fit that into the organization. But the message now is, how do you know that that's going to work? You need to test it for your context. You need to know that this is the right problem to solve. And this is, who your actual customer is. So who's the type of person that has this problem in your organization? And you need to make sure you've got the data that this is the right thing to work on. And so that's the message today. How do we test for our context and know these solutions are the right things? So what if we solved our business problems with an agile mindset? And that's what we're going to work through. And ultimately, it is good to think about how do you translate that world of agile, which a lot of us think kind of relate to the world of tech. What does it mean for people that are in HR culture and change? And so a good way to think about it is that it's about our customer sitting at the heart of what we do. And the customer for us, of course, is our people. But I encourage you to get to know that customer better. So what are the different types of employees that you have? What are the different segments or personas? And what are the problems they are facing? And how do you know how to solve for those? And often these links link to moments that matter. So moments that matter that really engages with the organization, with the purpose in their career. So we put the customer at the heart of what we do, and then we aim to incrementally deliver value. So that's about delivering value slice by slice. So you might just deliver an experiment first, or you might deliver a smaller version of the overall product or solution first. But you do that because you want to get feedback that this is the right thing to do. So we actually, and then once we've got that feedback, we go, okay, do we continue in the same direction, or do we need to adapt and change? Or actually, has it not worked? And do we need to actually go in a different direction? And then we start to use that feedback and then start to build out the solution over time. That is a bit of a different way that I know teams I've worked in HR have worked. Often we went for the big bang, one size fits all. And so this is different. This is about incremental development. And then in Agile, it says, actually, to solve complex problems, you need all the skills in the teams to get the job done. So actually, let's have it all in the team. So this is about multi-skilled teams solving problems together. And this is how you get that prioritization, because you can't solve everything at once. And you need to be ruthless in what are we going to deliver first and why? And then how do we know we've delivered enough value to move on to the next problem? And that's how we start to get this kind of agile mindset in HR. So a big message today is let go of that big bang, best practice, one size fits all solution, and actually go and find out what are the real pain points and test them with real people, and you'll actually get a much better result. So let's give that a go now. So a big theme that I mentioned earlier was co-creation. And the reason I use this term, it's quite deliberate and conscious. And this is one of the first reasons I kind of fell in love with Agile and saw that it was going to be so beneficial for HR. So the first time I was asked to use Agile, I had previously worked in some really big organizations, and I'd kind of been using some big HR processes around talent and development. And then I went into, I was asked to go and help a company evolve performance and reward for Agile teams. And the company, however, was a very agile company, and they had started, as a smaller startup, and now was quite big and successful. And I did what a lot of good HR consultants do. I went and interviewed some people. Okay, what do you think about performance and reward? I went and looked at the engagement survey, and then I went and looked at what I thought was best practice. So I went and looked at some other good companies. I looked at Google, I looked at Facebook, I looked at some of the kind of more cutting edge changes in performance and reward. And then I drew up my blueprint. This is how I think you should change performance and reward. And I was really quite, I thought I was very edgy. We were going to remove ratings. We were going to change bonuses. It was all about peer feedback. And I thought, yeah, this is exactly what they will want. And my sponsor quite rightly said, well, how do you know that's going to work? I went, oh, well, your people have said that they wanted this and it's best practice. And he goes, no, that's all assumptions and opinions at the moment. What we need some data to know that this is the right thing to do. You need to experiment and test, get the data, and then we'll make some changes. And so it seems really obvious, but I hadn't really run experiments of that kind with people before. And so I was quite lucky. I was able to ask people that were used to running experiments on their product to also start to experiment how you do this in their performance and reward. And what was really interesting is after, 3 months and then 6 months, we had some really big, clear data around what to do next. And we started, the first thing we did is we actually changed the bonus structure because we wanted to create more space every quarter for people to talk about feedback. So they said, oh, look, it's very focused on money and ratings. We need more space to talk about feedback. So we made the first change. And what was really interesting is in the past, that first change would have been very dramatic, and it would have been this huge change management program. But because we had been testing, I'd been listening to people's feedback, we'd been showing people the data, they really felt part of that change. And then we were able to keep building it from there. Also, what was very interesting is in that one of the teams, I gave an app to give each other feedback, thinking, oh, they're going to really love this. And they didn't. They didn't like it at all. They said, oh, we don't need some tech. We want a safe space to give each other feedback. And it was really interesting because in the past, I would have rolled that out across the organization. But now I had evidence that it didn't work. and actually we needed to go in a different direction. So this is what I'm talking about. If you can co-create the employee experience, it means that you're not implementing change onto people, you're building it together. And it is just such a more kind of enriched way of going about change. So yes, we've got a little message here of please let us know your questions. So do put some questions in the ask your questions area. I'm very open to talking about anything you want on Agile HR today. Okay, so let's go through some key principles of how you can start to think about solving business problems with an Agile mindset. The first one, and I've talked about this a lot already, is know your customer and be able to define value. So to do this, just like my example earlier, you need to kind of know the problem that you're solving. And at first, you might think you know this, but it's not so obvious. So if you're needing to build a hybrid workplace in response to the pandemic, what does that actually mean? Is it that we've got some very big assumptions. So lots of people are saying, oh, well, we're going to do 2 days in the office and 3 days you can work from home. But does that suit everyone? Is that actually what people need? Does that fix a problem? So for example, there was one company who they went into lockdown and they needed to get their customer service team up and running. And they were really worried because they thought, oh no, customer service is going to go down because people are going to have to log on from home. And we've never done that before. We don't know how to do that. So they put a lot of effort into solving the problem of making sure the customer service people could log on, connect instantly with the customer, and also have all the tools available electronically or digitally to be able to solve the customer problem real time and in one call. And also they set up new ways for the customer service people to chat to the customer and also each other to solve problems remotely. And what was really interesting, by solving that problem, their customer service results went up. And then they discovered that actually they had a better way now of working. So it was really interesting, but they needed to focus in on the particular customer and the particular problem to find out what to solve. And so with all of this, think about your big complex problems and start breaking them down. Who are the different customers that we have in the organization? What are the different types of employees and managers, and what are the problems that they have? And then if we solve that problem, what is going to be the value that you can deliver? And so let's have a think about career development, just as an example. So can you put into chat what does career development mean to you? So if I say career development, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Please put that into chat and let me know. Great. And I've got Julia's question, so that's great. But to put into chat. So we've got opportunities, fantastic. Building skills and learning, difficult, okay, yeah. Being constantly challenged, learning, opportunities, leveling up, growth in the company. Excellent. Grades and levels. Yes, Agatha, that's often how HR see career development, isn't it? It's often the grades and levels. Advancement, professional growth. Great. So this is really interesting because a team that uses Agile in HR, they had this problem. So they had people leaving the organization after 1.5 to 2 years. And they were a really big organization. And they saw that if they could keep more people and that people after 2 years went into a job internally, they could save a lot of money, but also boost productivity. So that was the problem, and that was the value that they could deliver. But they thought maybe the competency framework and kind of what we've done before isn't the right solution. Let's go and find out what's going on for the customer. And just like we've seen in chat, they discovered that people saw career development as all different kinds of things. So they saw it like what we're seeing here. I want new opportunities to be easy to find. So I need to find these opportunities. And I don't know where they are. I want to feel challenged. And I saw that come through a lot on the chat. Some people saw it as helping others. So I actually want to help other people learn and develop. That's what my career development would be. Some people I don't know what I want to do next. And then some people said, I don't feel supported by my manager. And what was really interesting is that by researching this way and digging into what are the problems that people have and what are the different types of customers we've got here, they were able to prioritize a series of areas to work on. And the first one, they actually realized the most important one was, I want new opportunities to be easy to find. And so they went about solving that, and they created a solution where people could find opportunities internally. And of course, then, find out more about them, apply for them, speak to the people that might be the project owner or something about the experience, and actually not just find the opportunities, but take them up. And just by doing that, they created a whole kind of new way of working in the company that solved that problem, but also created this great kind of opportunity to connect and collaborate. But that's very different to maybe introducing a competency framework or introducing set training on career development. So by knowing who the customer is and knowing the problem to solve, we actually go in different directions. So the next big area that's really important when we're thinking about Agile HR is human-centric design. And this is primarily pulling on design thinking and start to use that in how we build products and services in the world of HR, people, and culture. And the big theme here is, how do you start to build the people journey like a customer journey? And in that, you want these moments, you want to know the moments that matter. So moments that matter is when key times in your career where you've either thought, yeah, it is so great to work here, I want to give the best that I can, or the opposite, where you go, oh, this was terrible, I actually might leave. And we know some of these moments that matter. Onboarding, when you start a new job. So when you start a new job with a company, or maybe you move into a new job in the same company. This is a key moment that matters. And if we do that well, we can really engage people and we can get them delivering great results very early on and get them contributing their best. But if we get it wrong, we often lose people, don't we? We lose them in their first 6 months, or they become a bit negative, they become disengaged. So this is how do we start to use design thinking tools to really empathize and map the employee experience, and then find out what are the pain points that we need to start solving for. And this is about solutions also. So how do we start to test and prototype small solutions to begin with that we can then build out over time? So I thought I'd take you through an example. And before that, I'd like you to think about the topic. So the next problem I wanted you to think about is, how do we solve a problem like management development? So can you type in chat, what's some of the common management development solutions you see in HR introduced? So what's some of the common ways that we normally develop managers? Let me know your thoughts in chat. So definitely leadership programs. We roll out the program. Exactly. Leadership training. Exactly, Kimberly. So often they're, I used to lead, leadership and development teams. We would design these huge, big, 2-day programs, and then people would do projects, and then we'd go do follow-ups. We've got a one-size-fits-all. We do often see that. PDPs. Yep, definitely lots of those. Upward feedback. Yep. And feedback actually is one that can work, but we might do a big 360 feedback program, wouldn't we, around management development. Great. So really good examples. Specific trainings. Yes. Great. So let's have a think about this example. So one team that uses Agile in HR also had this problem. And so what they had was that they had a big management population, but no one had time to attend a 2-day program. So normally they would run these 2-day management development programs. And that, would take people out of the workforce away for 2 days to learn all the key skills of being a manager. But when they talked to people, people said, oh yeah, I really want development. I need to upskill as a manager, but I don't have time to attend these programs. So they went, oh, okay, well, how do we find out how to do this differently? So what if we maybe let's just put on hold the way that we've done it before, and let's go and find out again what the customer is thinking. So this time is speaking to managers and finding out what's going on for them. And what they discovered is that managers didn't think of development as, oh, I need to go and do feedback skills. They saw things as problems to solve at the time that they have the problem. So, for example, one manager says, I need to hire a new person, and I want to hire the best person, but I'm not quite sure how to do that. And I need to do that next week. So how can you help me? Another one was, I've got a new person starting in the team in a few weeks' time, and I really want to set them up well. How do I do that? Another one I know was, I've got a really difficult conversation tomorrow, and I'm not sure how to do it. So what they realized is they needed to get learning to the manager at the time that they had these problems. And so they started to test little prototypes and solutions. And they tested, okay, if we know a manager needs to hire someone, could we give them a video? Could we give them the opportunity to come to a little 90-minute session? Could they speak to somebody that's done it before, like a coach or a mentor? Could we give them some resources? And they even started to test, what if we knew when some of these moments were happening, because we could link it to our HIRS, like something like Workday. And they started to build this whole kind of data, collection of resources that managers could use at the time of need. And so they started to build, basically a learning solution that was in the flow of work. And what was really interesting is they saw a huge uplift in how many managers accessed learning. So before, they could only ever develop a few, maybe a few hundred managers a year by attending these 2-day programs. Suddenly, they were touching thousands of people at the same time. And they were seeing this, not just, they could track it because people were using data, they were opening up emails, but also they saw a big uplift in the actual engagement and feedback of the manager population. So again, really interesting. If you go and find out the problems to solve and you test based on that, and then you start to build out the solution, so this is the incremental development, you really can start to build a whole new way of doing something like management development. And so you're starting to see that a big theme here is evidence-based. So how do we be data hungry? How do we make sure that the changes that we make in the workplace are data-driven? And how do we test a hypothesis? So you will all have a hypothesis of how to solve a problem. So for example, if management development, my hypothesis is if I run a leadership program, leaders are going to get better. That's kind of your hypothesis. But how would you prove that? How could you demonstrate that? And how could you test it before you released it? And this is the kind of mindset that you want to start to get into. Working more evidence-based also helps us with our HIPPOs, doesn't it? So our highest paid person's opinion. And I don't know about you, but often the CEO or the senior executive influences HR projects in a really big way. And I'm working on a few at the moment. And again, that's exactly what happens. They have a very strong opinion about something like reward or performance or leadership. And often the project follows that direction. And we need to be able to manage that and also challenge that. And the best way to do it is to have data to represent you. So let's think of one more problem to solve, and how we could be in a more evidence-based experimental testing approach. So now let's think about how do we solve a problem like performance and reward for agile teams. So can you type in chat, if you were going to research this problem, what's some of the data that you would source to research this problem? So let me know. Type in chat some of the data sources you would access to research a problem like performance and reward. So would you go and, for example, look at the engagement survey? Okay, yeah, appraisal, performance data, fabulous. So we'd go and look at some of the information in the reward or appraisal system. how many people are doing it, what's going on, is there lots of steps in the system, does that kind of make it harder to do it, what's going on there. We got internal interviewing, fabulous. So we'd go and interview some people, find out what's happening for them, what's their experience in performance and reward. We could look at turnover, definitely. So is there an impact onto retention rates and turnover? And definitely things like culture results, focus groups, surveys, exactly. So we'd start kind of looking at lots of different data sources. Fantastic. What I would also say is I would encourage you to go and look at all those data sources and also have a look at research in the market. So, things like, research from myself and HR Trends Institute or something like Josh Burson. And also definitely starting to look at, is there any other examples of solutions that have happened that have had an impact on things like Net Promoter Score, things like that. And also go and have a look at the business data. So performance ultimately is about getting the job done and doing it really well. So is there, what's the data look like in terms of productivity and things like that in your organization? And could we actually link to that? Nail TED would also work for this. There you go. All right. So here's an example of what one Agile HR team did. So they could see that the performance and reward approach was causing kind of some problems with Agile ways of working. So it was very much focused on individuals. It was very much about just kind of feedback from the manager to the employee, and it wasn't allowing good collaboration across teams. But they wanted to know that making these changes was the right thing to do first. So what they did is they actually did the research that you've all talked about, and they went and actually talked to their senior leaders and they challenged some assumptions. So often senior leaders have a lot of assumptions about, that we should always give, bonuses to individuals and, I need to understand the different ratings of performance. And so they went and challenged those assumptions and they got them to support them to run a small experiment to begin with. So they just went to one part of the business and they ran an experiment for 12 months around doing these changes. So they saw there would be benefits in removing ratings. So that could be more about feedback and development. But if you just remove ratings and everything else stays the same, then often something like this very much fails. So what they did is they went in this area for the experiment. They went, right, we're going to decouple individual performance from bonuses. And instead, we're going to have transparent bonuses and sort of thank you rewards. They then looked at how could we create budgets where people could be giving recognition to peers, and also could employees own a learning budget for themselves. So there was this idea that you had, you could able to develop yourself. They also focused on how could they get peers giving each other feedback, and how could they bring managers together to not just calibrate ratings, but now talk more about their people. So who's going well, who needs development, how do I stretch my people, how do I develop them? So it's about developing their manager skills as well as how do they develop their people. And what was really interesting is they ran this experiment, and they saw that at the end they had increased engagement and positive feedback about the changes. So on that in itself was good evidence that they should keep going. But what was really interesting is they also found that for this part of the business, they had higher net promoter score. So they were actually getting better results with the customer, and they could show that productivity had lifted. And so suddenly you had some business benefits that the rest of the business were really interested in. And so then this new approach then was introduced across the business, and they kind of evolved it for different parts of the business. But this is a good example of, even for a complex problem like performance and reward, by running it more as a small experiment to begin with, get the data, find out what works, what doesn't, and then start to roll it out to other areas. It's a much more data-driven way, and you can also demonstrate some of the immediate benefits better. And so the kind of big theme here is kind of radical business collaboration. So not only in HR if we start to work this way, we need to actually have multiple, multi-skilled teams. So no longer can it just be single topic owners. So I used to look after performance and reward, or I used to look after learning and development, or I look after talent acquisition. But we all solved really big problems, and we always needed each other's skills to get the job done. So you have all these projects going in HR, and you're just needing everyone to be involved in all the projects. And so you don't really move significant things forward in a prioritized way. So Agile says, let's get all the skills in the team and start solving problems, in a prioritized way, in a more holistic way. And this equals T-shaped. So being T-shaped is a term in Agile, and it's about having breadth of experience where you can work across multiple business scenarios, and then deep specialisms, which is the vertical that you can tap into that's needed for different projects. It's also about understanding, our portfolio of products and services that we're delivering out across the organization, and how does this enrich the employee experience? And if you create something, how do you then maintain it? What does it look like? We create lots of great solutions in HR, but they also have to go somewhere. They have to be maintained. They have to be, updated, and or sometimes they have to be removed after a time. So understanding more about that kind of, like a business, that portfolio of how you deliver out the experience is really important. And the other key thing is this shorter cycle of work. So if you're working with an agile mindset, you're looking at, how do I deliver something in 2 weeks, in a month, and how do I then get feedback on that to know that, then take that into my backlog to then understand the next thing to work on, what's of value. And this is quite a different way of working in HR. We've often been more annual basis, and we've got the annual cycle that we often follow. So this cadence of work is really, really kind of revolutionizing our operating model. But also it's about truly collaborating with the business. So having business people in our teams to be part of these solutions. And definitely, as you saw from the examples, how do you test things with people, get feedback? Does this work for you? Does this solve your problem? And then based on the data, start to release it out across the business. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please keep in touch. So on your screen is how to stay in touch with PXO, and in particular, join our newsletter. Our newsletter comes out kind of once a month, and it's always full of lots of great resources and videos to watch and things like that. So please come and join us. Also, do link up with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk about Agile HR and look at what things you're doing. And of course, I wrote Agile HR, the book, with a co-author recently, and do check it out. There's lots of the examples I talked about today. There's more detail to all of those kind of things in the book, and how to kind of approach, building an onboarding program using design thinking. All of those kind of things are in the book. So it's nice and practical. Okay, so we got some questions.
Great masterclass, Natal. Congratulations. So yeah, as you said, we have some questions. So if you're ready, we can get started with those.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's go then. So we have a first question from Julia, and she wants to know, if I'm starting from scratch in Agile HR, what is the first thing to do?
Okay, so the first thing to do is solve a business problem. So what's the problem to solve? So, and this is just as much about, if you're wanting to use Agile in HR, you should have some problems that you're trying to solve by using an Agile mindset. So is it that you want to, be more digital? Is it that you want to break down silos? Is it that you want to deliver value to your customers faster? So know what the problems you're trying to solve in your team. And then as a team, say, okay, we're gonna experiment and start small. So I would say, either as a whole team or part of your team, you go, all right, let's use Agile for 3 months, for example. And in that time, we're going to solve a business problem, and we're going to use Agile tools to do that. And I would run a project using Agile. And that gives you a chance to learn and give it a go. And also, if you introduce it as an experiment, people are a bit more willing to not have all the answers, because I think people get a little bit scared. Oh, I haven't done Agile before. What if I get something wrong? But actually, if you say this is an experiment, we're going to give it a go and we're going to see what that means for us. Does it work for us? People are like, okay, yep, that's good. It feels a bit better. I don't have to have all the answers. And then what I've found is that if you create that sort of safe space to experiment and learn together, and you give them a chance to really try the Agile tools, very quickly people get really energized and they really want to keep going. So, but also for that time, keep one, choose a sort of key framework that you're going to follow. So it might be that you're going to use a Kanban board, for example, and you're going to run do some design thinking and prototype and test. Keep that format. Don't keep changing while you're in there. For some HR, they use maybe Scrum for that first experiment. So how do I use some key frameworks, some key tools, and keep that? And then just like you would in Agile, look at the data. So then step back. How did that go? What worked? What didn't? Would we keep doing this? Are we getting better results? And also now, if you then make some changes, you're making those changes based on some data. So that's how I would do it. I usually show a slide on kind of my top tips. I'll grab a list and I'll put it into chat.
That was great advice, Natal. We have a second question here.
Mm-hmm.
If you are ready also to answer it. It's
Sure.
from Javier, and he asks, how can you get buy-in from senior stakeholders to support the change?
Yeah, so that's always a good one. So hang on, here's my list for how to get started. How do I do it? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. It went. There we go. So senior stakeholders is an interesting one. So generally, it depends on where they are. So if it's someone that uses Agile in the business, then I would be talking about some of the benefits that they get by working that way in the business and how you can use that in HR to get a better result for their people. But the main way I do it is I don't necessarily mention Agile. I actually talk about the problem to solve again. So if you think about the examples we looked at, so for example, management development, if that's a big problem and managers, there's an issue with managers not delivering results well or not kind of managing their teams very well, a senior stakeholder is going to know that. And so if you get them involved in, okay, well, we've got this problem about managers and they're not able to have great conversation. Yes, I can see that. Okay, so I'd like to use this approach to try and get more data and test some solutions on how to solve that. Oh, okay, that's good. And so if you start to talk more that kind of business language, they start to connect. And they often want to know, okay, yeah, show me some examples or give me some data. And then we can kind of look at the next step. Another key thing that I've often done is I've got them involved in a way. So some teams that I've worked with that are maybe in a very traditional organization and they're sort of they haven't used any Agile before. What we've done is we've actually we've brought a multifunctional team together, made up of different parts of HR, maybe sometimes even business, and we've ran a sprint. So we just do a sprint for 1 week, and we aim to solve a problem that's happening in the business. And you don't solve the whole problem, but you really accelerate the result in that big project. So, for example, it might be a big change project that's happening. And often if it's a project where it's been going for a while and it hasn't really had great results, then that's a really good one to choose. And then we ask the senior leaders to come in as the users that we test things with first. And we show them the outcomes of some of the sprints. So they get an idea of, okay, working Agile is a bit different, this minimal viable product, it's not as polished, but actually, I can give instant feedback and, I can see the evidence of why you work this way and what the data is. So getting them involved in some of those ways of working can be really a really great way to get their buy-in.
Completely agree with you, Natal. So we have a third question from Jose Ignacio. How can you take informal practices that could be considered Agile-like and set up a more formalized program?
How can you take informal practices that would be considered Agile-like and set up more formalized program? I'm not I think I'm not totally sure what that means. Maybe you can put a little bit more information in the chat. So you want to using some informal practices, yeah, works well. I'd say one of the best ones to use first in Agile, rather than kind of going full, Agile change, is just using some design thinking principles. So that's really, I think all HR teams from now on should use design thinking. It just makes so much sense. It really helps you empathize with the employee experience. Means you find out the right problems to solve, and it helps you think a bit, agile with prototyping and testing. I'm not totally sure what we mean by set up a more formalized program. Maybe we can get a bit more information on that. So if you're wanting to then take things that are happening informal and make it more formalized, then I'd go back to what we talked about earlier with the start. How do you start? I would run a set, time box period where you go, okay, for this period, we're going to use these tools as a kind of more, formal, or everyone's using them together at the same time to see how that is, and also then build an approach based on that. So, but if you can give me some more information, I can answer that question better.
Okay, so we will answer the last question if you like, and we'll wait in case Jose Ignacio wants to clarify something. So the last one is from Abel, and he wants to know if there's any platform you will recommend for leadership training around interviewing.
In link to all I would say is that so when we're using agile techniques and also design thinking, you're wanting to do what's known as kind of human-centric interviews. So this is, you don't have to do lots of interviews to start to find out the themes, but you need to actually go and hear about the experience that people are going through. So if you think about the example we looked at earlier, what they discovered was that managers had these problems, I've got to go and hire someone tomorrow and I don't know how to do it. And so to get to that, you need to kind of ask people about, okay, so, talk me through how you do your job. What kind of problems are you facing? And then, okay, and why might that be? So there's quite a lot of whys. There's a lot of kind of exploring their story, and you try and go deeper into the experience. I would say that's probably one of the best techniques to then start to think about how to design leadership training. Also, another really good one is thinking about the experience. So if you're mapping the employee experience, or what does it mean to be a manager, you'll start to see there's key moments that are more important. So definitely when you've got a new manager, how do you help them get up to speed quickly? How do you help them, start to have the right conversations with their team? Another one that we always know about is a manager that needs to give some difficult, feedback. That's a key moment and a key problem to solve. So if you start mapping that out, you can start to create solutions that are more targeted based on those moments that matter. And they're about basically removing blockers and challenges for people and helping people get better and better at what they do. But generally, trying to just cover all of those moments that matter in a 2-day program is not going to get the solution. So it's about breaking it down and understanding the different problems. And you might find in your organization, and so this is where you start to prioritize. So you might find that actually we're pretty good at helping new managers in teams, but we've got a big problem about a manager that then goes to a senior level, and they're not sure how to lead in a different way. They're still trying to get too caught up into detail. So that's a problem to solve. Or you might find that people are great at, developing teams that are performing well, but when a team starts to not perform well, the managers struggle to have the right conversation. So that would be a problem that you'd go and solve. So again, trying to highlight the different things to focus on is really important.
Thank you so much, Natal, for answering all our audience questions. And I think we are done with them.
Okay.
So once again, Natal, thank you so much. It was a great masterclass full of insights, techniques, and methods that will definitely help us to apply Agile in an HR team. And to the audience, thank you so much for joining us today. You will receive the recording shortly in case you want to rewatch it. And also tell you that in Nated, we are organizing more masterclasses to help you face the future of work and adapt to the changes to come, to keep the focus on what really matters in a company and the people. Our next masterclass will be on November the 17th, and it will be delivered by David McLeod, co-founder of the movement Engage for Success. And he will talk about how to improve employee engagement in increasingly demanding times. Don't forget to follow us on social media so we can keep you informed of more masterclasses and great content to come. Have a great day and see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye. Bye-bye.